Not all brawlers are hexed the same. Some you have to try hard to not team wipe with them, and others it is quite literally impossible to even hurt the opponent. So with the help of someone I consider to be a fellow willow expert, we rated every brawler on 5 qualities, technically, to see which ones are the best to use your scarce willow super on. The 5 different categories we felt best represented how well a brawler is to super were ease of use, basically how easy it's going to be to hit shots with a controlled brawler, movement speed, because you need to be able to get close to the opposing team if you super the person far away from them, DPS to see on average what brawlers you will be able to kill, health to see on average how long you would get to control them before they are out of your control, and reload in case you super an enemy when they are very low in ammo. These categories are all rated out of 5 for a total of 25 points a brawler can get. We then added a special 6th category called Niche in case any of the brawlers have a star power that would be beneficial when controlling, or they and their pet interact weirdly with Willow Super or whatever. A brawler would just get the niche number added or subtracted from the final score, so yes, it is possible to get higher than a 25. D tier was going to be 0 through 5, C tier 6 through 10, B tier 11 through 15, A tier 16 through 20, and S tier is 21 and above. Ease of use is really only the debatable one because we rate movement speed based on this, health on this, DPS based on which health they can 3-shot, and if their damage is a bit consistent than the average damage, and reload speed on this. First off is Shelly. She gets a 5 on ease of use simply because she has a shotgun for an attack that is not very hard to use. She gets a 4 on movement speed, 4 on DPS since her main damage comes from her super. She gets a 4 on health and 4 on reload speed. She also gets a +1 on niche for if she's running band-aid because it can help you to keep her under your control for longer. This gives her a 22 out of 25 and places her in S tier. Nita gets a 4 on ease of use since you still have to aim her attack for the most part until you get fairly close to them. She gets a 3 on movement speed, 3 on DPS, 4 on health, and 5 on reload speed. She also gets 3 subtracted from the niche category since when you control her, your teammates cannot hurt her bear and that can be really detrimental. This totals up to a score of 13 out of 25 and places her in B tier. Since Colt's shots can be notoriously difficult to land, he gets a 1 on ease of use. He also gets a 3 on movement speed, 5 on DPS, 2 on health, and 3 on reload speed. He also gets a +1 on the niche category because both of his star powers can help him either score in Brawl Ball or making his shots a little easier to hit. This totals up to 16 out of 25 and places him in the A tier. Bull's attack is very easy to use, giving him a 5 on ease of use. He then gets a 4 on movement speed, 5 on DPS and health, and 3 on reload speed. He also gets +1 on niche since both of his star powers can be useful. This totals up to 23 out of 25, landing him in the S tier. Brock's shots are pretty easy to land at max distance, but if you're closer than the explosion radius, it can be pretty easy to dodge the slow shots. And for this, he gets a 2 on ease of use. Then a 3 on movement speed and DPS, 1 on health, and 2 on reload speed, adding up to 13 out of 25 and landing him in B tier. Primo didn't get a 5 on ease of use since you have to actually aim his attacks if you want to get all 4 hits in the majority of the time. He gets a 4 on movement speed and DPS, 5 on health, and 5 on reload speed. Combined, he scores a 22 out of 25 and is put into the S tier. Barley's attack is pretty easy to hit for the most part, so he gets a 4 on ease of use, 3 on movement speed, and while he has the potential for a 4 or 5 on DPS, it's pretty inconsistent, so he gets a 3 on DPS. A 1 on health, and 2 on reload speed. He also gets -1 and +1 on niche, since if he activates his gadget before you super him, he is slowed down, but if he happens to be running extra noxious or even medical use, those can both be beneficial. Since those two cancel out, his score comes to a 14 out of 25 and puts him in the B tier. Poco gets 5 on ease of use since with the speed boost from Obsession, you'll basically just be able to auto aim with him. He gets a 3 on movement speed and then a 1 on DPS for obvious reasons, a 4 on health, and 3 on reload speed. He also gets +2 on niche for if he is running Da Capo since you can heal you and your teammates quite a bit with it. This scores him an 18 out of 25 and puts him in A tier. Rosa gets a 5 on ease of use since you basically just auto aim her attack all the time. She gets a 4 on movement speed and DPS, and then a 5 in health and reload speed. She also gets +3 on niche since it's very easy to super her when she uses her own super, and Rosa is mainly going to be played in bushy maps, so her bush healing star power is going to be very useful. This totals up to 26 out of 25 and easily puts her in the S tier. Jessie is kind of in the same boat as Brock in that her shots are a little slow and therefore can be hard to hit, so she gets a 2 on ease of use. She gets a 3 on movement speed, DPS, health, and reload speed. She also gets a +1 on niche since when you control her, her turret damages itself, so you can go and attack her teammates and let the turret deal with itself. This all totals to 15 out of 25 and puts her in B tier. When you control someone, they will usually be fairly close to their teammates, and Dynamite's shots are near impossible to hit at close range if the opponent is somewhat good. This gives Dynamite a 1 on ease of use, and then a 4 on movement speed, 3 on DPS since it's not guaranteed to hit both sticks, 2 on health, and 3 on reload speed. Altogether, Dynamite gets a 13 out of 25 and ends up in B tier. With Tick, you usually hit shots paired up with area control you've built up over the match, but when you hex a Tick, you are basically starting fresh, and hitting shots in this scenario is dummy difficult. So he gets a 1 on ease of use, he gets a 3 on movement speed, 1 on DPS, health, and reload speed. He also gets -2 on niche since you can't damage a Tick head when you control Tick, and those 4 seconds of not being able to hit the Tick head just guarantee that it will hit either you or your teammates. In total, Tick gets a 5 out of 25 and is put in D tier. 8-Bit gets a 1 on ease of use since his attacks are fairly thin. He gets a 1 on movement speed, 4 on DPS, 5 on health, and 3 on reload speed. In total, he gets a 14 out of 25 and is placed in B tier. Rico gets a 1 on ease of use, since to make the most out of his attacks, you have to know how to properly ricochet them. He gets a 3 on movement speed, 4 on DPS, 2 on health, and 5 on reload speed. He also gets +1 for extra bouncy star power. This scores Rico 16 out of 25 and puts him in the A tier. Among the other shotgun users, Daryl gets a 5 on ease of use, 4 on movement speed, 5 DPS, 5 health, and 3 on reload speed. Altogether, Daryl gets a 22 out of 25 and is put into S tier. Penny gets a 2 on ease of use, 3 on movement speed, 2 on DPS, 3 health, and 2 on reload speed. Adding the rest up, she gets a 12 out of 25 and is put into the B tier. Carl gets a 3 on ease of use since even though it's a longer range attack, it's still fairly wide and it can be bounced off a wall to make it easier. He gets a 3 on movement speed and DPS, 4 on health, and 2 on reload speed since you'll only be able to get so many shots off in the 4 seconds you're given. This may come to a surprise to many of you, but we actually decided to give Jackie a 3 on ease of use. Since you actually have to aim the attack so you can see how close you are and might not know if you're going to hit them. Nah, I'm just kidding. Of course she gets a 5 on ease of use. She gets a 4 on movement speed, 3 on DPS, 5 on health, and 3 on reload speed. She also gets +1 on niche since both her star powers are useful when controlling her. This gives her a 21 out of 25 and puts her into the S tier. Gus gets a 2 on ease of use because he's a marksman, but he also has a wider attack, and he gets a 3 on everything else. He also gets +2 on niche since you can control him when he supers, and he's 9 times out of 10 running the star power to give him more attack when he throws his shield out. This all adds up to 16 out of 25 and puts Gus in A tier. Bo gets a 3 on ease of use since it's pretty easy to hit a shot or two with him, and he gets a 3 on movement speed and averages out a 3 on DPS. He gets a 4 on health and 3 on reload speed. This scores Bo 16 out of 25 and lands him in A tier. Ems is fairly easy to use as well, but you do have to space it a little bit to get the most damage from it, so she gets a 3 on ease of use. She gets a 3 on movement speed, 4 on DPS and health, and 2 on reload speed. She also gets +1 on niche for both of her star powers in case you end up supering her when she uses her super. In total, she gets a 17 out of 25 and ends up in A tier. Stu is normally considered a pretty hard brawler since his supers can require good ping and game sense, but since he can't use his super during Willow's mind control, he gets a 3 on ease of use. He also gets a 3 on movement speed, DPS, and health, and then a 2 on reload speed. Altogether, he gets a 15 out of 25 and is put in B tier. Piper gets a 1 on ease of use since without her gadgets, her shots can actually be fairly difficult to hit. She gets a 3 on movement speed and DPS, and a 1 on health and reload speed. She also gets a +1 in niche from her star powers. Totaled up, she gets a 10 out of 25 and is put in C tier. Pam gets a 4 on ease of use since it's kinda hard to miss a shot with her attack. She gets a 3 on movement speed and averages out a 3 on DPS, a 4 on health, and 5 on reload speed. She also gets a +1 for if she's running Mama's Hug and ends up getting a 20 out of 25, putting her in A tier. Frank's attack is almost always able to be auto-aimed, so he gets a 5 on ease of use, a 4 on movement speed and DPS, and a 5 on health and reload speed. He also gets a +1 on niche from both of his star powers. Also, this isn't added into the rating, but it is extremely easy to steal his super and use it against his team, so he's pretty good for that too. But altogether, he gets a 24 out of 25 and is put into S tier. BB gets a 5 on ease of use and movement speed, and she gets a 3 on DPS since you will usually only be able to get 2 attacks out because of the delay, unless you attack immediately as you control her. She makes up for it though with a 5 on both health and reload speed. She doesn't get the +1 niche for star power since a lot of time when you control her, she won't have her bat fully charged. In total, she gets a 23 out of 25 and is put in S tier. B gets a 2 on ease of use since you have more leniency with her attack because of the 1 ammo thing. She gets a 3 on movement speed and 5 on DPS, 2 on health, and 5 on reload speed. Both star powers can help out, so she gets a +1 on niche. B scores an 18 out of 25 and goes to the A tier. Nani gets a 1 on ease of use since her shots can be hard to hit consistently. She gets a 3 on ease of use and 4 on DPS as an average. She gets a 1 on health and 3 on reload speed. She also gets a +1 on niche since you can make her damage herself for a hefty chunk of her health at the end of it. Altogether, she gets a 14 out of 25 and is put into B tier. Edgar is baby easy to use, let's be honest, especially when you're controlling him with Willow and are just running down the enemies anyways, so he gets a 5 on ease of use. 5 on movement speed, 4 on DPS, 3 on health, and 5 on reload speed. He also gets +2 on niche for if he's running fisticuffs or activates his gadget before you control him. In total, he gets a 24 out of 25 and is put into S tier. Griff's attack is pretty forgiving and feels around the same ease of use as Pam and Nita, so he gets a 4 on that category. A 3 on movement speed, 5 on DPS, 3 on health, and reload speed. He also gets a +1 on niche for either star powers. This scores Griff a 19 out of 25 and places him in A tier. Grom has the same problem with Dinah in that when you control him, his teammates are probably close by, and hitting close enemies with Grom is just aids. So he gets a 1 on ease of use, 3 on movement speed, 2 on DPS, health, and reload speed. Altogether he gets a 10 out of 25 and goes down to the C tier. We decided to rate Bonnie in her 2 separate forms as they're too different to rate as one. Starting out with Clyde, she gets a 3 on ease of use since her attacks are pretty wide. She also gets a 2 on movement speed, 3 on DPS, and 5 on health and reload speed. In total she gets an 18 and is placed in A tier. Bonnie's attack is basically just a shorter range bow that does more damage, so she gets 5 on ease of use, movement speed, and DPS. She gets a 3 on health and 2 on reload speed to add up to 20 out of 25, making her way to the A tier, along with her cannon buddy. Even though Gale's attack is so wide, there's still some more skilled things you can do with him like wall peeking and such, so he gets a 4 on ease of use. He also gets a 3 on movement speed, 2 on DPS since he won't ever hit all his snowballs in his attack and instead consistently gets like 1600 to 1800 damage, 4 on health, and 5 on reload speed. He also gets a +2 on niche since the slowing star power is so good and allows him to just auto aim all his attacks and helps your teammates to hit shots as well. In total, Gale gets a 20 out of 25 and is put into A tier. Colette feels kinda similar to Bonnie on ease of use, so she gets a 3 on ease of use. She gets a 3 on movement speed and, under much consideration, gets a 3 on DPS. She won't ever really finish anyone off, but she can still do lots of damage to opponents for your teammates to finish them off. She gets a 3 on health and reload speed, averaging out the most average score of 15 out of 25 and is placed in B tier. Belle's similar to Piper in ease of use, so she gets a 1 on ease of use. She also gets a 3 on movement speed and DPS, a 2 on health, and 4 on reload speed. She also gets a +1 on niche since every time she hits an enemy she's going to get a shield from positive feedback. In total she gets a 14 out of 25 and is put into the B tier. Ash's attack felt very similar to Nita, so he got a 4 on ease of use, a 4 on movement speed, 3 on DPS since his DPS varies with rage, 5 on health, and 4 on reload speed. He also gets +2 on niche since he's better with more rage and both star powers help him. All in all he gets a 22 out of 25 and is placed in S tier. Lola felt like a slightly harder Pam, so she got a 3 on ease of use, 3 on movement speed, 4 on DPS and health, and 3 on reload speed. She also gets a +2 on niche since her clone attacks itself and her star power to deal more damage also helps her. In total she gets a 19 out of 25 and is placed in A tier. Sam is similar to Stu in that with his super he's a skilled and hard brawler, but without it you kinda just run forward and attack. So he gets a 5 on ease of use, 4 on movement speed and DPS, 5 on health, and 3 on reload speed since we are counting his reload speed with his knuckle busters because that's what we counted the DPS with. Together he gets a 21 out of 25 and is placed in S tier. Mandy gets a 1 on ease of use for being a marksman with an average attack size. She gets a 3 on movement speed and DPS, a 2 on health, and 3 on reload speed. She also gets a +1 niche for her star powers. This adds up to 13 out of 25 and puts her in B tier. Because of Mainsley's delay on her attack, she gets a +1 on ease of use. She also gets a 3 on movement speed and DPS, 4 on health, and 3 on reload speed. Altogether she gets 14 out of 25 and is placed in B tier. Hank gets a 5 on ease of use since you can simply just charge the attack, run at him, and release the milk. He gets a 3 on movement speed and 2 on DPS since you will basically only get 1 attack off with him. 5 on health and 1 on reload speed for the same reason as the DPS. This scores him a 16 out of 25 and puts him in A tier. Earl gets the same treatment as Griff and is put into 4 for ease of use, 3 on movement speed. We decided to give her 4 on DPS on average, and then 4 for health and 3 for reload speed. She also gets a +1 on niche for having more heat and if they're running the shield star power, which they most likely are. Larry gets a 5 on ease of use since, like previously stated, when you control them they will be closer to enemies and his attacks are pretty easy to hit against close enemies. He gets a 3 on movement speed, 4 on DPS and health, and 3 on reload speed. He also gets a +1 on niche since Laurie ends up damaging himself when you control Larry. This adds up to 18 out of 25 and puts him in A tier. Angelo gets the sniper treatment and gets a 1 on ease of use, especially because if you miss one attack with him, your super is essentially wasted. He gets a 5 on movement speed, which will definitely help you to hit that shot, 2 on DPS because he only gets 1, 3 on health, and 1 on reload speed for the same reason as Hank. He also gets a +1 if you super him in his super. Altogether he gets a 13 out of 25 and is placed in B tier. Barry gets a 5 on ease of use for reasons similar to Larry and Lori, but his attacks last way longer, so it's even better. He gets a 3 on movement speed and 4 on DPS since it has potential to do a lot of damage, 2 on health and 1 on reload speed. He also gets a +2 on niche since you can give your teammates a lot of healing. This scores him a 14 out of 25 and sends him to B tier. Mortis is normally a hard brawler to use since you have to line yourself up to right to actually get value out of your super and all that, but without his super we think he's a 5 on ease of use. He also gets a 5 on movement speed, 3 on DPS, 4 on health, and 1 on reload speed. This totals up to 18 out of 25 and puts him in A tier. Tara has a similar ease of use attack to people like Nita, so we gave her a 4 on ease of use, 3 on movement speed, DPS, and health, and 2 on reload speed. She also gets a -1 on niche since you can damage her pets when she's supered. This adds up to 14 out of 25 and lands her in B tier. Jean gets a 5 on ease of use since you basically aren't going to miss an attack with him, a 3 on movement speed, 2 on DPS, 4 on health, and 2 on reload speed. Altogether, Jean gets a 16 out of 25 and ends up in the A tier. Max felt pretty similar to Lola on ease of use, so she gets a 3 on ease of use, 5 on movement speed of course, 4 on DPS, 3 on health, and 5 on reload speed. Altogether, she gets a 20 out of 25 and is stuck in the A tier. Mr. P gets a 2 on ease of use since it's harder to hit his shots up close. He gets a 3 on movement speed, 2 on DPS, and 3 on health and reload speed. He also gets a -1 on niche for the same pet problem. This scores him a 12 out of 25 and sticks him into B tier. Sprout gets a 2 on ease of use since the bounce can make up for some missed shots sometimes. He gets a 3 on everything else though, totaling to 14 out of 25 and puts him in B tier. Byron gets a 3 on ease of use since his shots are wider and easier to hit, seeing as he needs to hit his teammates to heal them. He gets a 3 on movement speed and DPS, 1 on health, and 4 on reload speed. He also gets a +1 in niche for being able to just heal your teammates or yourself. This all adds up to 19 out of 25 and puts him in an A tier. Squeak gets a 4 in ease of use because of the large explosion radius and being able to trap people with 2 shots. He gets a 3 on movement speed and DPS, 4 on health, and 2 on reload speed. He also gets a +1 in niche for the chain reaction star power. This scores him 19 out of 25 and lands him in A tier. Lou's thin multi-projectile attack gives him a 1 on ease of use, similar to Colt. He gets a 3 in movement speed, averages out a 3 in DPS, and then a 3 in reload speed. Lou can freeze the enemies with this attack, but his long-lasting super also means it will be on the ground more often and cause Lou to slip on his ice while being controlled. Canceling those two out, Lou gets a score of 16 out of 25 and puts himself in the A tier. Ruff's lasers are quite thin, but with a decent chance of landing one, he gets a 2 for ease of use. He also gets a 3 in movement speed and DPS, 2 in health, and 4 in reload speed. With nothing else to bring to the table, Ruff gets 14 out of 25 and goes into the B tier. Bust easily gets a 5 in ease of use along with some of his fellow assassins. He gets a 4 in movement and 5 in DPS, health, and reload speed. His overall score is 24 out of 25, an almost perfect score and an easy S tier. While Fang's long range shoe is hard to hit, his close range attack is not, giving him a 5 in ease of use. He gets a 4 in movement speed, DPS, and health, and then an even better 5 in reload speed. He also gets a +1 in niche for divine souls, which can help block some of the damage he receives and keep Willow in control for longer. With this addition, Fang gets 23 out of 25 points and kicks his way into the S tier. These attacks require decent aim, but the larger eggs make up for a part of it, giving her 2 in ease of use. She also gets a 3 in movement speed and a 4 in DPS. With her health below her average, she gets a 2 in health. Lastly, with a 3 in reload speed, Eve gets a total of 14 out of 25 points and a solid B tier. Although Janet is considered a marksman in-game, her attacks are wide enough to give her a 3 in ease of use. She also averages out a 3 in movement speed, DPS, health, and reload speed. With a score of 15 out of 25, Janet flies into the B tier. Otis gets a score of 3 in ease of use as well for his decent spread of thin shots. He gets another 3 for movement, 4 for DPS, and a 3 for health and reload. While you may think he should get +1 for second star power ink refills, let's be honest, not many souls out there use stencil glue. If you find one that does, give the lottery a try. You'll have equal chances of winning. With that in mind, Otis gets a score of 16 out of 25 and goes in the A tier. Buster's attack is a nice wide cone, giving him a 5 on ease of use. He gets a 4 on movement and an overall 3 in DPS, more or less depending on the distance from his targets. He gets a 5 in health and a 3 in reload speed. In total, Buster gets a score of 20 out of 25 and lands himself in the A tier. Next is Gray, and his attacks is one of the hardest ones to land that isn't a throwing attack, so he understandably gets a 1 in ease of use. Aside from that, he gets a solid 3 in movement, health, and DPS. He also gets a 4 in reload speed and gets a +2 for his doors or teleporters, whichever fits better, but doors is the technical name, allowing Willow to move him through them and get him to better positions for her to utilize. This adds up a score of 16 out of 25 and puts Gray in the A tier. RT's attacks are similar to Gray's, a very thin shot that's hard to land, so he also gets a 1 in ease of use. He gets a better score of 3 in movement speed and DPS, a 4 in health, and a 3 in reload speed. He gets a +1 in niche since Willow can use his legs to damage and mark himself while he is split, making him easier to take down after she loses control of him. For a total of 15 out of 25 points, RT makes it into the B tier. Now for the rare interaction of a willow controlling a willow, she gets 4 for ease of use. While her attack is hard to land at max distance, any distance closer than that and it's much easier to land. She also gets a 3 in movement, and 4 in DPS, but a low score of 2 for health and reload speed. This averages out to a score of 15 out of 25, giving her a not so mind-boggling B tier. Doug is in the same boat as Jackie, having the easiest attack to land in the game, giving him a totally unexpected 5 in ease of use. He gets a higher score with a 4 in movement, a 4 in DPS, 5 in health, and a nice 3 in reload speed. On top of that, a +1 for his ability to heal Willow and her teammates while Hex, making him a useful tool for defense and support. All in all, with a great score of 22 out of 25, Doug surfs in the S tier. Chuck's attack is easy to land at a distance, and it's also hard to land all 3 shots per attack, giving him a 2 in ease of use. He gets a 4 in movement, 3 in DPS, 5 in health, and finishes off with a weak 2 in reload speed. Despite relying on his super a lot, Chuck makes a good Hex enemy with a score of 16 out of 25, putting him in the A tier. Charlie's attack is not hard to land nor easy, averaging a 3 in ease of use. Speaking of average, Charlie gets 3 in movement speed, DPS, and health. Her reload speed is pretty fast if you can consistently land her shots, giving her 4 in that category. These numbers sum up to a score of 16 out of 25, swinging her into the A tier. Miko is by far, indubitably, undeniably, and inarguably, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst brawler to control in the game. Not only is he unable to deal damage to enemies while hexed, but he also can damage Willow herself and her teammates, so we decided to give him a 0 in every category, except for a +2 in niche for the fact that you can end teammates with attacks and give your team points in wipeout and then collect your team's stars and bounty, as well to score in Brawl Ball with this extra movement. With the easy summation of 2 points, he jumps into his own special little tier called F. Melody used to be one of the worst brawlers to control as she didn't spawn notes on Willow's side for her to use. Now that she does, she's more reliable in dealing damage. She gets a 3 for ease of use since her notes are fast enough to be auto-aimed even at the maximum distance. She gets a 3 in movement, a 4 in DPS thanks to her orbiting notes, another 4 in health, and a 3 for reload speed. She gets an extra points for fast beats, giving her extra movement speed from the notes orbiting around her, and scores her 18 out of 25 points, dashing her into the A tier. Lily has a straightforward and quick attack, making it a quick decision to give her a 5 in ease of use. She also gets a 5 in movement, 4 in DPS and health, and an easy 5 for reload speed, one of the quickest in the game along with her unload speed. With a total of 23 out of 25 points, Lily silently sneaks her way into the S tier. Clancy is a bit of an odd case, his power varying depending on his level. To keep it simple, we'll give him points based on level 3 stats, since that's the level he'll most likely be at the time. He gets a 2 in ease of use as his attacks are decently hard to land but not the worst. He gets a 4 in movement speed and DPS, 3 in health, and 2 in reload speed. He would get extra points for his star power pumping up, but those points are taken away by the fact that if Clancy isn't at level 3, landing attacks on his teammates while Hex will give him tokens, helping him level up faster. With this negation, Clancy gets a surprisingly average score of 15 out of 25 points and claws his way into the B tier. Spike's attack is hard to land directly, but the spikes that shoot out from it are much easier to hit, especially with Curveball, giving him a 3 in ease of use. He also gets a 3 in movement, 4 in DPS, and 2 for health and reload speed. While Super slows himself down and damages him while he's hexed, he makes up for it with either of his star powers to negate the damage he takes from his super with Fertilize, or make it easier to land his shots with Curveball. Spike scores a 14 out of 25 points, putting him in B tier. Pro can quite literally always auto-aim his attack, so we gave him a 5 for ease of use. He gets another 5 for movement, but a poor score of 2 for DPS and an even lower 1 point for health. He makes up for some of it though with a 4 in reload and then a +1 in niche for both of his star powers benefiting Willow while controlling him, making enemies deal less damage with extra toxic or dealing extra damage to them with carrying Crow. Crow swoops into the A tier. Next up is Leon, and he gets a 4 for ease of use with his attack being easy to land at its effective range. He gets even better scores with 5 for movement speed and DPS and a 3 in health and reload. He loses 1 point for being uncontrollable while invisible unless he's in the visibility range of Willow or her teammates. Yeah, you get punished for having good projecting skills and hitting an invisible Leon with Willow super at a distance. Sometimes it's just better to not be good at the game. With this in mind, he gets a score of 19 out of 25, blending in with the other brawlers inside the A tier. Sandy's short range attack is another easy hitting cone, giving him a 5 in ease of use. He gets a variety of scores with a 4 for movement, low 2 for DPS, 4 in health, and a 3 in reload speed. However, he loses 2 points for the same reason as Leon being unable to control Sandy while he's inside his sandstorm unless Willow or a teammate is nearby. Unlike Leon though, his super lasts much longer and attacking doesn't remove the invisibility. Despite the harsh loss, Sandy manages to rest easily in the A tier with a score of 16 out of 25. Meg is 2 forms, with and without her mecha Ra, so we'll rate them separately. With her mecha, May gets an easy 5 in ease of use. You're not missing that attack unless you aim somewhere but the direction of the enemy. She gets a 3 in movement speed, 4 in DPS and health, and a 5 in reload speed. Overall, a solid S tier. Meg without her mecha, on the other hand, actually isn't too bad, at least not movement speed wise. She gets a 3 for ease of use for her straightforward attack, 4 for movement, and an easy 5 for DPS. It is what we'd say if we were bigger clowns than the large number of randoms in the game. Since we claim we're better than that, she gets a 1 in DPS and health, but a 5 in reload speed makes up for it. She gets 15 out of 25 points and manages to make it in the top of B tier, but take this with a grain of salt as it isn't fully accurate to how strong she actually is while hexed. With Amber's attack, you really just auto-aim the whole time, so we decided it was pretty accurate to give it a 5 on ease of use. She then gets a 3 on movement speed, 5 on DPS, 3 on health, and 5 on reload speed. She actually doesn't get any points in the niche category because while you can burn her puddles that she might have left out beforehand, if you burn them while a teammate is standing on them or you will end up taking the damage, and the enemies actually are immune to the beforehand placed puddles. All in all, she gets a 22 out of 25 and is put into the S tier. Surge, like Clancy, has different levels, so we'll rate him as if he's at level 4. He gets a 2 in ease of use for a decently hard to hit attack, but a 5 for movement speed thanks to the level 2 boost, which every Surge will have after one super thanks to his star power, Serve Ice Cold. He gets a 3 for DPS and health and a 2 for reload speed. Not too shabby, 15 points, Surge gets a spot at the top of B tier. Chester's attack varies from hard to hit to easy to land, so it averages out to a 3 in ease of use. He gets 4 for movement, DPS, and health, and a 3 in reload speed. He gets a +1 for having a good bell cycle while hexed, which in itself is luck, but also useful. He's solid A tier with a total score of 19 out of 25. Cordelius gets a 4 in ease of use because similar to El Primo, his attack has a short range but requires a little aiming to land every shot. He gets a 5 for his fast movement speed, a 4 for DPS, 3 for health, and another 5 for reload speed. He gets an extra point for combo streams, allowing him to deal even more damage while he's hexed. This assassin gets a score of 22 out of 25, a well-earned S tier. Now for everybody's favorite brawler, Kit. He gets a 5 for ease of use. His attack is another hit scan like Jackie and Doug. You can't miss it as long as it's in range. He gets a 5 for movement, a 3 for DPS and health, and another 5 for reload speed. He gets an extra point for his power hungry star power being useful for dealing damage to enemies and keeping control of him in showdown. This cat lands on the S tier with a total of 22 out of 25 points. Last but not least, we have Draco. He doesn't quite have 2 separate forms like Bonnie and Meg do, but does have 2 separate attacks, so we'll rate them separately for that since Willow can typically only use the enemy's attack. Draco without his super active gets a 4 in ease of use, not a 5 because of the needed spacing for extra damage. He gets 2 solid 3s for both movement speed and DPS, and 2 big 5s for both health and reload speed. For the slightly rare occurrence that the Draco is using exposed, we gave him a +1 in niche for helping Willow and her teammates deal damage to the exposed enemies. He gets a total of 21 out of 25 points and goes into the S tier with many other tanks in the game. For our final rating, we have Draco with his dragon, which gets 5s across the board for ease of use. Movement, DPS, and health. The only stat it lacks is reload speed, which will be getting a 1 as once you run out of ammo, you're not getting much back by the time the super ends. He ends it off in the S tier with a score of 21 out of 25 points. A nice encore to this long performance. If you watched to the end, I want to congratulate you. I wanted to try a bit slower pace and not so grab your attention as quick as possible and keep it type of video, because in the state of YouTube right now, a lot of it can just feel so flashy and aggressive and just kind of exhausting almost. And so I wanted to give something slower, more relaxed, and give you guys this. So if you did watch to the end, amazing job. I congratulate you, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to make today a great day and have a good one.